Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well, and I hope you found the last session useful. Make sure you go through the modules and take up the assessment in the end and work on the case study as well. We'll be discussing all of that very soon. Today, we're going to talk about thyroid health, thyroid disorders, and the ways to manage them. Okay, I'll take you through my PPT once again. Let me just share the screen so that you can view it. Okay, hope you can see my screen. So we'll be talking about thyroid gland in detail to begin with, and then we'll also discuss thyroid disorders and ways to manage them. Okay, so thyroid gland is an endocrine gland situated at the base of the neck, just anterior and lateral to the trachea. Okay, it's a ductless gland, so it makes and releases thyroid hormones directly into the bloodstream. It secretes three hormones: thyroxine, which is T4, triiodothyronine, which is T3, and calcitonin. Okay, it produces more of T4 than T3, but the most active form of thyroid hormone is T3, which the body can use. Okay, most of this conversion happens in the liver. Okay, but it also takes place in the cells of the heart, muscles, gut, and even nerves. The enzymes called deiodinases facilitate this conversion. Okay, and our thyroid gland uses iodine from food to make these hormones. Okay, I'm quickly going to show you a short video to brush up our thyroid anatomy. So give me a moment, please. Okay. This is a beautiful video by Ken Hupp. You can quickly take a look at it.
First of all, what is the thyroid gland? The thyroid gland is an organ that is part of the endocrine system. Its main function is to regulate metabolism throughout the body by producing the hormones triiodothyronine and thyroxine. It also helps to regulate calcium levels in the blood by producing the hormone calcitonin. The thyroid gland is located in the base of the neck, just anterior and lateral to the trachea and inferior portion of the larynx. It spans from approximately the level of C5 to T1. The thyroid gland is generally butterfly or H-shaped in appearance and is composed of two primary lobes, each with a defined superior and inferior pole. These two main lobes are simply known as the right lobe and the left lobe of the thyroid gland and are roughly similar in size and shape. Connecting the two lobes is a region of the thyroid gland called the isthmus, which we can see from both an anterior and posterior view. In many people, there can be a smaller third lobe, which is only present in about 40% of the population. This is the pyramidal lobe of the thyroid gland and can vary in size and appearance. It is thought to be a remnant of the thyroglossal duct, which is present during development. Functionally, however, it is the same as the other lobes of the thyroid gland. The other glands
Great. Hope this video helped you refresh your understanding about the thyroid anatomy. Let's get back to our PPT. All right. So, through the thyroid hormones it produces, the thyroid gland influences almost all the metabolic processes in the body. Okay, and when the thyroid functioning is affected, it has a huge impact on our metabolism. The thyroid disorders can range from a small, harmless goiter, which is nothing but the enlarged thyroid gland, to life threatening cancer. The most common thyroid problems that we see today involve the abnormal production of the thyroid hormones. We refer to it as hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, right? Hyperthyroidism involves an overactive thyroid gland resulting in excessive thyroid hormone production, whereas hypothyroidism involves an underactive thyroid gland, resulting in insufficient thyroid hormone production. So when it comes to diagnosing the thyroid issues, we look at the serum levels of TSH, T3, and T4. TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, is produced when the hypothalamus releases a substance called thyrotropin releasing hormone, TRH. TRH then goes and triggers the pituitary gland to release TSH. Okay, and then TSH stimulates the thyroid gland to produce the thyroid hormones. So in case of hypothyroid, the TSH levels increase because the thyroid gland has to be stimulated more, whereas in hypothyroid, the TSH levels decrease because the thyroid gland is already overstimulated. We also look at testing the levels of thyroid antibodies, anti-TPO, thyroperoxidase, and anti-TG, which is anti-thyroglobulin. This is to check if the thyroid issue is autoimmune in nature. When it's autoimmune in nature, the problem is not with the thyroid gland by itself. Okay, the gland is fine, but the overactive immune system is producing antibodies against the thyroid gland, which is attacking the gland and it's affecting its functioning. And then it gives rise to autoimmune thyroid conditions such as Hashimoto's thyroiditis or Graves' disease. We'll be discussing how autoimmunity works in our autoimmune session, so you understand it in detail and in a better way. Let's look at the symptoms of an underactive thyroid gland, hypothyroidism. So you experience fatigue, tiredness, increased sensitivity to cold, constipation because of the reduced metabolism and reduced peristalsis, dry skin, weight gain because of the drop in the metabolic rate, puffiness and water retention, hoarseness in voice, muscle weakness, elevated blood cholesterol levels, muscle aches, tenderness and stiffness in your joints and in your muscles, lot of pain and swelling in the joints, heavier than normal or irregular menstrual periods, thinning of hair, slowed heart rate, depression, impaired memory, and raised blood pressure as well. And the symptoms of hyperthyroidism would include sudden weight loss, even the appetite and the amount and type of food same or even increase, rapid heartbeat, which is tachycardia, commonly more than 100 beats per minute, or there could be irregular heartbeat, which is arrhythmia or pounding of heart, palpitations, increased appetite, nervousness, anxiety, irritability, tremor, okay, usually a fine trembling in hands and fingers, sweating, a lot of sweating, changes in menstrual patterns, increased sensitivity to heat, changes in bowel patterns, especially more frequent bowel movements here, and an enlarged thyroid gland, goiter, which may appear as swelling at the base of the neck. Then there could be fatigue, muscle weakness, difficulty sleeping, skin thinning, fine brittle hair, right? So, how do we manage these conditions through lifestyle? Okay, we're going to talk about managing hypo and hyperthyroidism today. For managing Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, we'll first need to understand autoimmunity in detail and then learn how to manage it. So, we shall discuss that in our autoimmune session. So, today we'll talk about hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism and ways to manage it. Talking about hypothyroidism, of course, weight is the main issue here, right? Due to reduced metabolism. So we look at handling weight loss the right way. Everything that we discussed in our weight loss session is applicable here. Okay, so right nutrient balance of the meals, portion control, mindful eating, slow eating, the right gaps between the meals, maintaining food logs, right amount of exercise and movement throughout the day to rev up the metabolism, which is already sluggish, good quality sleep, handling stress the right way, all of it. Okay, even adding yoga to their routine is of great benefit for their thyroid function. Okay, so certain asanas can stimulate and support the entire endocrine system. Asanas like Sarvangasana, which is the shoulder stand, which is especially beneficial for stimulating the thyroid gland. Then Halasana, fish pose, Setu Bandhasana, Bhujangasana, all of these are great. So you can recommend these to them, but make sure they do it under the supervision of a trained yoga expert if they are a beginner. Then to look into it more specifically in terms of food, Uh, of course, we look at avoiding goitrogenic food in a raw form. So vegetables like uh, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, radish, Brussels sprouts, kale, all of these cruciferous vegetables should be avoided in a raw form. We are not going to avoid the consumption of it completely because we cannot lose out on the other benefits that these vegetables have to offer, right? So we are going to include them, but only in a cooked form because cooking destroys goitrogens. Even foods like lettuce, kidney beans, bajra, methi seeds, garden cress seeds, all of these would also contain goitrogen. So consider cooking the beans, bajra, consider roasting the methi seeds, garden cress seeds. These are just the examples that I'm sharing. Okay, goitrogens basically inhibit the uptake of iodine in the thyroid gland, which then affects the thyroid hormone production. And they are destroyed with heat. Okay, exactly why the foods that I mentioned can be consumed as long as they are cooked well. Okay, then look at avoiding soya products completely in these cases. No refined sugar, that's something we anyway avoid. Go easy on refined carbs, processed foods, the bad fats, all the trans fats, reused oils, aerated drinks to be stopped completely. Alcohol and smoking can affect the thyroid functioning big time. So look at slowing it down and then stopping it completely. Yeah. Then talking about some superfoods and nutrients to improve the thyroid activity. Of course, we look at including a variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds. The number one, the star superfood for thyroid health is cold pressed virgin coconut oil. Okay, it's been considered as a boon for thyroid, literally. It works wonders in improving the thyroid functioning. And we have seen how amazingly the thyroid levels have come back in range after a consistent period of coconut oil intake. So, a regular intake of coconut oil starts showing the effect in 20 to 30 days in most cases. So, what's that magic component in coconut oil that helps boost the thyroid and manage its symptoms? It contains medium chain fatty acids consisting of components like lauric acid, caprylic acid, and capric acid. These possess antiviral, antibacterial properties. Okay, more importantly, the MCTs, they do not require bile for digestion. Okay, they are directly absorbed from the gut into the bloodstream and are quickly taken up by the mitochondria of every cell, which results in an instant energy boost. So this helps in boosting the metabolism, which is usually sluggish in hypo cases, right? And it helps in combating the feeling of lethargy and fatigue as well. Lauric acid, especially, is also known to stimulate the thyroid functioning. So it produces the thyroid hormones in a better way. We recommend about 1 to 2 teaspoons of therapeutic dosage of coconut oil per day. The intake may also go up to 1 tablespoon in some cases. We've had many people with hypothyroidism who have successfully improved their thyroid condition, weaned off the thyroid medications gradually, and even reversed their hypothyroidism with the lifestyle changes. Okay, please note if we are including coconut oil in the plan, then we need to ensure the total oil intake throughout the day is that is used for meal preparations, all of that doesn't exceed the recommended allowance of 4 to 5 teaspoons a day. Okay, that's a standard recommendation. Or or one may just use coconut oil for cooking itself, so he does not need to take it separately as such. The oil allowance may differ from case to case. Okay, we usually stick to an oil intake of half a liter per person per month. Okay, we do not want to go overboard with the oil, even if it's a good oil, as it may end up affecting the other parameters in the long run. So do keep a check on these things as well. Okay, then comes omega 3. Okay, make sure you make it a part of your thyroid plans. Very important for reducing inflammation, balancing lipids, which are usually affected in thyroid cases. Consider natural sources like walnuts, unroasted flaxseed powder, flaxseed oil, fatty fish, or you may want to consider adding 1,000 to 15,000, 1,500 mg supplement too. um, then look for good sources of selenium as well, which is an important mineral and an antioxidant required for thyroid hormone production. Okay, it acts as a cofactor for the deiodinases enzyme that convert T4 into T3. Okay, it also helps decrease the inflammation. So consider adding selenium-rich sources in the diet like Brazil nuts, walnuts, sunflower seeds, onions, garlic, whole grains, A to organic dairy, unless it's not an autoimmune condition. Even wheatgrass contains selenium and makes a great superfood for thyroid issues due to its energy and metabolic boosting properties. So you can use either fresh organic grass and make a juice out of it, or you can use organic wheatgrass powder, 1 teaspoon mixed in a glass of water, and this is to be taken upon waking up because it requires an acidic pH to get absorbed in the system. In some cases, you may also want to consider supplementation of selenium, 200 mcg selenium. But first, try and add selenium-rich sources through the diet. Later, if required, you can consider the selenium supplementation as well. Next superfood is pumpkin seeds. They are a rich source of tyrosine and also zinc, both of which are important for optimum thyroid hormone functioning. Consider adding 1 tablespoon of soaked pumpkin seeds in a hypothyroid plan. Other food sources of tyrosine would include almonds, walnuts, avocados, bananas, sesame seeds, and zinc is also present in peanuts, dark green leafy vegetables, almonds, chickpeas, and so on. Also, not to forget vitamin A. Okay, it is required for activation of thyroid hormone receptors, and insufficient vitamin A may depress thyroid functioning. Okay, also hypothyroid people have a reduced ability to turn beta carotene from papaya, carrots, all the vitamin A food sources, which is so vitamin A is always present as beta carotene in food, and then it has to be converted into vitamin A in the body. So hypothyroid people have a reduced ability to turn that beta carotene from food to vitamin A. Therefore, do take care of their vitamin A levels, their vitamin A intake through food. Okay. Now, when it comes to salt consumption, yes, rock salt or Himalayan pink salt are great, but we need to be using a mix of rock or pink salt and the iodized table salt in 1:1 ratio to ensure there are no chances of iodine deficiencies. Okay, stick to a salt intake of not more than 1 teaspoon a day. We can also consider adding ashwagandha powder to our thyroid plants. It's a great adaptogen. It helps balance the hormones, and we've seen great improvement in the thyroid levels after starting with ashwagandha. We use 1 teaspoon of pure ashwagandha powder mixed in water. Good to take it at bedtime because it helps calm the system and assists in better sleep. Some people take it in the morning as well because it acts as a great energy booster too. Just make sure you're keeping a gap of minimum 4 hours between the thyroid medication and ashwagandha to avoid any interactions. Okay, similar with moringa. If you're including moringa powder or a supplement in the diet, make sure you keep a gap of 3 to 4 hours between the thyroid medication and moringa. Okay. Lastly, green tea, one of the best superfoods packed with antioxidants and helps boost the metabolic rate. Extremely beneficial in these cases to accelerate the sluggish metabolism. Consider adding that as well. Pure organic green tea. So a hypothyroid person, is usually on medications, on oral hormone medication, right, which is supposed to be taken on an empty stomach daily, ideally in the morning, and they're not supposed to eat anything after that, right? Like they're not supposed to eat anything immediately after that. So make sure you plan their meals accordingly. If you put them on intermittent fasting, then it is okay to have the thyroid medications in the fasting state. It's not going to break their fast. And in terms of oil pulling, in case they ask you about oil pulling, many people may end up asking if I should take my medications before the oil pulling or after oil pulling. Ask them to do it before. Okay, ask them to do the oil pulling before they take the medication, because you'll need to drink water to take the medication, right? And oil pulling is done before you drink water and even before you brush your teeth. So just take care of these aspects as well. We discussed about de-stressing, we discussed about yogasana, so let's move on. Okay, now let's talk about ways to manage hyperthyroidism. Okay, just like we look at losing weight in a healthy way for hypo cases, here we look at helping the patients gain healthy weight. Okay, their appetite may be extremely high due to high metabolic rate, and they also have a tendency to burn what they eat at a very fast rate. So no matter how much they eat, they simply do not put on weight. Okay, but that doesn't mean they can eat everything and anything. We need to help them gain weight, but good gains. Okay, we still need to ensure the right nutrient balance and adequate portion. So we consider including foods which are calorically dense, okay, which means even small portions of food would give them large amount of energy, so that the body energy reservoirs are completely filled. Okay, so consider adding a mix of simple and complex carbohydrates like fruits, dry fruits, sweet potatoes, tapioca, purple yam, good fats including nuts, seeds, avocados, pure A2 ghee. Look at adding first class protein sources, eggs, antibiotic hormone free chicken, fatty fish, A2 organic dairy, then cereal pulse combinations like khichdi, rajma rice. Okay, include sattu shake as well. It's a great energy booster and good for healthy weight gain as well. Include pea protein shake. You can consider including clean whey protein shake as well, right? Encourage them to keep some healthy munchies handy to munch on at frequent intervals to ensure a sustained supply of energy. So they can keep things like date rolls or jaggery based nut chikkis, organic honey based granola bars, sattu laddu. You can get innovative with the recipes here and add a variety of energy dense combinations. We also have a recipe repository, so you can refer to that as well and pick up a few recipes to add into the plans. So, like I said, the main aim is to gain weight here, right? We never really want them to put on the bad weight. So, keep the bad weight gaining foods at bay, like processed food, refined carbs, refined sugar. All of this still needs to be kept at bay. Forget the wrong weight gain; it would also end up affecting their blood markers, their blood parameters in the long run. So, do take care of these things also. And in terms of exercise, just because they're losing weight, it doesn't mean they shouldn't be working out or they shouldn't be exercising. They should be working out regularly with more emphasis on strength training. And this has to be supported with the right pre and post workout meals so that it enables them to gain a good muscle mass. Next, I want to talk about is the connection between hyperthyroidism and bone health. Okay, if the thyroxine level in the body stays too high for a longer period, or if the thyroid stimulating hormone TSH level stays too low for a longer period, then there is a high risk of developing osteoporosis in the long run. Okay, why? That's mainly because too much of thyroxine in the body speeds up the rate at which the bone is lost. Okay, the osteoclastic activity. And if this happens at a faster rate, then the osteoblasts, your bone cells, may not be able to cope up and they'll not be able to replace the bone loss quickly enough. Okay, so this can result in leaching of calcium from your bones and porous bones, fragile bones, and osteoporosis in the long run. So focusing on bone health is extremely important in hyperthyroid cases. Keep a close check on their calcium and vitamin D levels. We may need to increase their calcium intake and supplement with vitamin D, of course, after checking the levels in order to increase the bone mineralization and maintain their bone health. Okay, so you can include calcium rich food sources like sesame seeds, A2 organic milk and milk products, ragi or nachni, rajgira seeds, brown chana, moth beans, horse grams, spinach. There are a lot of calcium rich food sources, but in terms of vitamin D you'll find very limited food sources of vitamin D. The best source is the sunlight, of course, but you will have to consider supplementation if your levels are insufficient or if you have vitamin D deficiency. So of course, after checking your current levels, we can decide the course of your vitamin D supplementation. Next is to include goitrogenic food or to exclude it. Well, the raw goitrogenic food would help reduce the thyroid activity, which is actually required in hyperthyroidism. So there is no harm in using the goitrogenic food here, but we wouldn't really prefer doing like we wouldn't really prefer including raw goitrogenic food too much as well, because two things: we do not consume excessively fibrous vegetables in a raw form anyway to avoid the digestibility issues. So raw cruciferous vegetables wouldn't be a good idea. And secondly, consuming too much of goitrogenic food over a period of time could slow down the thyroid to such an extent that they become hypothyroid later. Yes, we have had such cases wherein the patients who were hyper before, and they were put on medications to slow down their thyroid functioning, and they were also loaded up on goitrogenic food in their diet, and they ended up becoming hypo later. So we need to be watchful of these things too. Like, we can, anything in excess is bad. So even if the raw goitrogenic food is going to help slow down the thyroid activity, we can't really overdo it, because it could slow it down to such an extent that they become hypo later. So be watchful about these things too. Okay, omega-3 fatty acid. Yes, it helps to control the hyperthyroid, hyperstimulated thyroid gland. So do consider adding omega-3 rich foods in hyper cases as well. Zinc is important here as well. Okay, the hyperactive thyroid gland can deplete the zinc levels in our body. So make sure you include the zinc rich food sources in hyperthyroid plans as well. Then green tea, it is found to be really helpful for hyperthyroidism cases because of its antioxidant properties. It reduces the oxidative stress caused by hyperthyroidism, but it also boosts the metabolic rate, right, which is not favorable in this condition because the metabolism is already way too high. So limit the intake of green tea to not more than 1 cup a day, and eat a calorie dense snack along with it. Okay, or just simply include any other antioxidant rich source in the diet, all the colorful berries and nuts and deep colored dry fruits, a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables, various seeds. So you can consider other antioxidant rich sources as well. Green tea is just one of them. If you're including it, always make sure it's combined with an energy dense snack. Okay. Lastly, some herbs such as basil, rosemary, oregano, ginger, they are all anti-inflammatory in nature, and they help normalize the thyroid functioning, and they increase immunity as well. So do consider using them in your plans. Okay, so that's all we have for thyroid. Hope you found the session useful. Do ensure you make maximum use of this information in making your food plans and coaching your thyroid clients. I will see you in the next session. Thank you.